Hi everyone, I'm Billy Nomace and this is hashtag Let's Get Awkward. Today we are looking at trans in media, i.e. movies and TV shows. So let's look at movies and TV shows, and let's go back to 2018 where Scarlett Johansson was given a role in the movie Rug and Tug and faced backlash as the character was trans. Now this wasn't the first time it happened to her, as she was given the lead role of Ghost in a Shell, where many felt it was whitewashed as the character was Japanese, yet it was given to a white woman. I didn't agree with it either, because it was wrong, including their reasoning for casting a white person. It made sense as a chocolate house in the desert. They said the character she had played was close to death and only the brain could be saved, so they put it in a body of a white woman. A white woman. In Japan. They put the brain of a Japanese woman in the body of a white woman. If you watched the remake of RoboCop, you would remember Murphy's reaction when he saw himself as just a head and a pair of lungs. Then there is Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, and there's a scene where John Travolta wakes up with a different face and his reaction was insane. Another example is Gotham with the doll maker who wanted to see how much he could change before the victim couldn't mentally take it. But the point is, how would a person cope being put in a body that not only isn't their own body, but a different ethnic? You know, their whole identity is also a mental image, and if they wake up as a different person, it's going to be dangerous. So to be honest, the argument is flawed in so many ways. But back to 2018, people are outraged as, once again, a trans role was given to a cisgender, and Johansson's reaction is what I would say was whataboutism by pointing out other cis actors who had played trans roles. Yes, fair point. But just because someone else had done it doesn't mean it's okay for you to do it. These actors were Jeffrey Tambor, Jared Leto, and Felicity Huffman. All three had actually faced criticism, and they took it and admitted it that they should have gone to a trans actor. Even Tambor, in his Emmy speech, stated, "I would not be unhappy were I the last cisgender male to play a female transgender on TV. And it's not like there are not any trans actors available. I've seen Chaz Bono work magic in American Horror Story. It was amazing. He's a brilliant actor and dancer." Another argument is, well, they need a big name for the movie, so it won't fail. That's not as valid, as big name celebrities weren't always big name celebrities. They had to start somewhere. They didn't get big movie roles overnight. They had to do small roles, like Johansson was in Home Alone 3. Anyone remember that? It did take me a double take when I saw her, because, you know, you've gone from adult Johansson, then you've got this child Johansson writing the answers to her exams on the bottom of her shoe in a movie. And then there was Cameron Diaz in The Mask. That was actually her big break. There was Will Smith and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I mean, it's a bad example. Everyone remembers that one, since people wanted a reunion. And then there was Janet Hubert, or Hubert, if that's how you pronounce it, who played Vivian for the first few series, and she cannot stop going on about how she was mistreated, though no one has backed her up and pointed the finger at her, saying that she was the problem and no one else. I digress. Yes, Johansson did say she did mishandle the situation. Yeah, I'm not quite convinced, as she could have walked away from her role in Ghost in a Shell and allow a Japanese actress to have the role, yet she shrugged off the criticism, said some BS, and did it anyway. And all I can do is hope that she grows and watches what she says if another one comes her way, because watching her get a role spat rubbish then do the role, only for a few years later, she gets the role, spout rubbish, and thankfully this time she actually drops the role. So, who knows, maybe next time she will get the role, realise her mistake without spouting the rubbish, and just apologise. So, maybe there is some hope of progress happening. When it comes to actors and actresses, they do more than memorise lines on a page and speak them. They're our guides into a story where we stand by them, we explore their lives along with the characters' hopes, dreams, loss, sadness, just everything in this adventure that we've opened ourselves up to. Their ability to portray that role is vital to keep the magic alive. They can make us laugh, cry, have hope, feel sadness and joy. The list goes on what a great story with a great cast can do for us. So whoever is chosen has a great responsibility, and it's all based on their capabilities. And sometimes there are experiences and wisdom trans actors have that they can give to a trans character. And again, it's not like there were not trans actors to offer this role to. When She-Ra, Princess of Power, cast a non-binary actor for a non-binary character, I was ecstatic. And Double Trouble was amazingly put together, and they got on everyone's nerves in a funny way, especially since Double Trouble was a shapeshifter and could be anyone they wanted. Laverne Cox was in Orange is the New Black. Again, she was amazing as well. It can be done, and the more we speak up and have more trans and non-binary roles, maybe we can open more doors to have more trans and non-binary actors, and maybe make some more big names. Though when it does come to casting, Epigram wrote an article in 2018 addressing the issue of cisgenders in trans roles. One part struck me when they say there is a layer that suggests trans women are really men and trans men are really women. When a cis actor is cast as a trans woman, it will guarantee be a man, especially if they are well known, resulting in painting a picture that transness is something that is performed on stage, screen, and not lived. We are here, and not having us in TV shows and media kind of gives everyone a message that we are not part of anyone's lives, that we don't matter, but we do, especially in this time where we have a Conservative government who wants to take away our rights and open the door to more struggles after fighting so hard to get to what we have now. Representation is important, and who they choose for this role is again a great responsibility, as it shows how they see trans non-binary people, which will project into their work for all to see, leaving an impression, and a negative one isn't an option. They really need to look at us and see who we are and how we look. I once showed my brother 9 pictures. 8 were drag queens and 1 was a woman, and I asked him to pick out the woman. Of course, he chose wrong. Answer was number 6, it was Michelle Visage, and the rest were queens from RuPaul's Drag Race. Which kind of shows that he was going by his image of what a drag queen would look like. And that proves my point of how everyone sees a transgender or a non-binary. Because some trans non-binary people, it sets an image of what we're meant to look like. And with the media, how they show it, it looks picture perfect. And people think that's what we look like. However, we don't all look like that. I mean, though I am a trans man, I look like a tomboy, or as one person put it, a butch dyke. I have a feminine face. I also knew a trans woman who had the shape of a woman's body, but she still had the masculine facial structure, and her voice was still pretty deep. And well, this is a problem with everything when it comes to media, because they also show what men are meant to look like and what women are meant to look like, what kids are meant to be. and it just puts this false image into people's heads, and it really does affect everyone in a negative way. No matter who you are, ethnic background, sexuality, if the media puts out an image saying this is what this person is, we're all going to think that this is what it is, and it's not. You never see in the media, in magazines, the flaws in what a person's features are. Like everything else, we have to fit in their image, which people will see and think, yeah, that's trans, non-binary. And when we argue saying it's not, they can back it up and say, well, it's in the TV, magazines, movies, etc., so that must be what they look like. I've seen enough page 3 girls to know that that's not what boobs look like. They sag people. They really do. They show these nice boobs that are somehow supporting themselves, keeping them nice and up, and no, that's just not realistic. But how can we fix this issue? If you want to write a trans non-binary role, then ask a trans non-binary person about their experiences, their stories. I read a lot of James Patterson books, and when he writes his roles, he goes to people who know this stuff, like police, doctors, fire departments, etc., so he can paint a realistic picture of what is happening and credits them for their input. So do the research in LGBT+, ask them their feelings, emotions in real life situations, and credit them. No one's going to be ashamed that you've given credit to people who've helped you make this amazing work of art. Don't go Little Britain and go by stereotypes, because then you're left with something that, like a lot of things, won't age well and find itself banned on streaming sites as people are more woke, as a lot of seem to put it, or simply putting their way of thinking is evolving and asking more questions about why is it portrayed like this, or why are things the way they are, isn't there another way or solution. I would welcome more trans non-binary actors, even if they are not big names, because even if you do get a big name, it doesn't always mean you can have a great movie or TV show. I have 3 examples. Tom Welling, he was in the height of Smallville, and they put him in the movie called The Fog. It was, even without the poor storyline, his acting was little to be desired. It was just a huge, massive flop of a horror movie, and I regret buying it. Then there was Kevin Costner in Waterworld. I liked it, but rewatching it, his acting could never have saved it. I mean, it was a cool storyline, but it was just poorly put out, and the roles were so poorly made, and the acting was not convincing. Then we have George Clooney as Batman, and yes, he didn't like it. He didn't like his role. Everyone regrets him being it. I'm the only one who actually enjoyed it, because when I remember watching Adam West as Batman, it was camp, fun. When I watched George Clooney, it was camp and fun, and I did enjoy it, especially with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman. I did enjoy that movie, but for the majority, George Clooney could not save the movie, and he was a big name at the time as well. So these 3 examples do show that it takes more than a big name. Just because you have this big shot star that costs a lot of money does not mean you're going to get big money in return. Sometimes getting someone based on talent and ability needs to be more important. Side note though, I'm not saying that they don't have talent, as I love Tom Welling in Lucifer, and he should have had a few more episodes to explore his past life before he became head of the police department. Plus, I do have beard envy, so I could stare at him for a while, unless a young Alan Alda came along, and then I would walk away. Sorry, Tom, but I love Alan Alda in his younger years. Point being, though, if I can find trans non-binary actors on Google in 5 minutes, then Hollywood has no excuse not to know any, let alone ignore them. I have already covered trans and non-binary in drag, and I found a whole list of drag kings and queens that were transgender and non-binary and the contributions that they made within the drag community. Though in the end, those in control have the power to make the change, and if we pressure them enough, then maybe they will listen a bit more and start making steps. Side note, if you do want a bumbling, nervous trans man who will stutter in front of an audience or when a camera is on them, look me up because I would rock that role. Also, I can sing any song and play any instrument amazingly bad. I once had to learn how to strum a guitar and rewrite the words to the 12 Days of Christmas in 30 minutes, and it was awful. Absolutely awful. I mean, yes, that was my role. I had to be an awful audition, but at least I did it well enough for a Razzie. I could beat Halle Berry and get her Razzie. That does bring us now to the end, and I hope to have you next week. But remember that just because you can get a big name celebrity does not mean you're going to get big results. Take a chance. If, hire someone who is capable based on their capabilities, their experiences, and put a trans and non-binary in a trans non-binary role, even if they are a small name, because you could make them into a big name. You could be part of the steps they take to have a successful career in acting. And there's nothing wrong with being a step. You're helping people and you're also telling a story. If you want to know more about trans non-binary, then go to mermaiduk.org.uk. As always, we're not sponsored by them. We just love mermaids. And remember always, #Let's Get Awkward, because let's face it, to really get to the heart of the issue, we always have to get awkward. So thank you all, and I'll see you next week.